Hello, Cassie Kelly here with On Point Holistic Marketing. And based on a question I had from one of our More Feet Club members today during our members call, I wanted to do a quick video to talk about when to post on social media. Now, I want to preface all of this by saying there's no one right answer across the board. Like, there's no way that I can tell all of you to post at these exact times and this is going to be perfect for you. It definitely depends on your audience. I want you to think about what the life of a mom with young kids looks like, who stays at home, versus one who is working a 9-to-5 office job, or anybody working a 9-to-5 office job, versus somebody who's retired. The schedules can look completely different, and especially even like working a 9-to-5 job versus maybe working second shift or something like that. So knowing your audience and who you typically work with and what their schedules will look like means you might need to adjust this. And you might need to adjust it on the days when there's holidays, for example. We have on the fourth Thursday in November coming up soon in the United States is Thanksgiving. So this might not be the perfect time to post your normal posts at 8 p.m. You actually, though, maybe you might want to think about what you post and tailor it specifically to thinking about, okay, what's going on in my audience's life? Like, were they the ones that was cooking the Thanksgiving dinner and they're exhausted and just like vegging out, like flipping through Facebook? What's going to connect with them at that time? Versus, the kids who are had an easy day and just, hopped in, ate, got stuffed, and then probably are out with friends or hanging with cousins or whatever it is. So knowing your audience knows whether or not they're likely to be on, say, social media at that time and what might connect best with them. Anyway, so this is a general guideline. That's my preface. Based on, there's tons of studies out there. None of them agree 100%, but there's a general consensus that posts on Facebook tend to do better on the weekdays and the weekends, although Sunday typically is the worst performer. But then again, sometimes they say you get better click-throughs on Sunday. It kind of just depends on your audience and what their mindset is. But anyway, I've included 2 Saturday days and no Sundays, but feel free to test a Sunday here and there and see how it works for you. Also, during the weekdays, they say that the main business time. Some of them say it's the afternoon that does best. Some of them say anytime during business hours do well. Certain days, like Wednesdays, there's a couple times that tend to perform better. But again, it just really changes study to study. So I don't want you to stress out about it too much. If you want to schedule based on times, if this structure helps you, use it. It's great. If this feels overwhelming to you to try to post on a certain schedule, don't worry about it. The general guidelines are, weekdays tend to perform better. During the day tends to perform better. Maybe weekdays afternoon is probably the supposed sweet spot. But again, I love testing. I love data, and I want to encourage you to, if you feel so inclined and you like doing that stuff too, to take a look at your own data and see what might work best for your audience. So I'm going to show you how to do that too. Now, I'm on I forgot to go back. So anyway, we can pretend that we are, here, give me 1 second, I'll get it back to where I'm supposed to be. This is actually my 3rd recording of the day, and I'm just going to roll with it because, some days work better than others. Anyway, when you're on your Facebook page, if you have the new layout, you're going to have all your options over here on the side. If you still have the old layout, they might be up at the top. But either way, you should have a link for Insights. And once you get to Insights, again, the new layout's on the side versus it might be across the top on the old Facebook layout, you are going to see an option for posts. And that is where the 2 different types of data that I want to look at are going to be found. This top graph, you can see here, it should be set to when your fans are online. Now, this is showing me the average of the last week of all the days. But if you hover over each day, you can see there's some variations from day to day on which times and how they perform. But this one doesn't really have any major variations from the big one, so we can kind of just use that as a guideline. I also want to point out that this says that it is shown in the Pacific time zone. I am actually in the Central time zone. So you definitely want to look at that and see if it's showing it in your time zone or a different one, and you might have to make calculations. You can see that it says 6 p.m. has the most of the fans for this Facebook page online. So there's about, on average, 470 people on Facebook at 6 p.m. Pacific time. But being Central time, I would want to adjust that before I scheduled my post. I don't want to do it at 6 p.m. Central time because that's not when they're online. So definitely make note of that there. And you can see, you can look at each day, and really it doesn't vary that much from any one day. Thursday and Friday both are the highest, but you know, Wednesday only has 2 less, and it's not even a 10 people difference. So anyway, you can kind of see why. And interestingly though, again, like based on this, you know, there's a little spike around that 6 p.m. Pacific time, but most of the rest of the day is pretty flat. So again, when they say things perform better at certain times than others, some of that might be, if you think about, sometimes people get on Facebook and they're just mindlessly scrolling. So they might be in the mood to give a like or react in some way, but maybe even a comment, but they're probably not going to read anything too in depth, or, you know, they don't want things that make them think too hard. Now, it just depends on your audience and the time of day and person to person, of course. But for example, you know, if somebody is working an 8 to 5 job, for example, over their lunch hour, they can probably get more involved if they're looking at Facebook than if they're kind of looking quickly because they got a notification and they happen to see your post, you know, in their few seconds, and they're like, well, I can't really take the time to do this right now. I'm supposed to be working. So they're not going to engage fully. So those are some things to think in mind. Now, again, if your audience is retired, then that's probably not a problem. And you might think though, like, when are they most engaged in the day? You know, a lot of people, their brains are more active and interested in learning earlier in the day. So maybe you put your more educational stuff earlier, and in the evening is when you kind of just can do the lighthearted, like, oh, I'm tired, but I can laugh at that, or I can enjoy that, you know, entertaining factor and things like that. So those are all some variables to keep in mind as you look at your data and you see when your people are online. The second area that you can look at is still also on this little posts page. But when you, oh, actually, I'm sorry, I forgot to show you something first. Back up to this little chart. There are other things that you might want to take a look at, and that is the type of posts. So this isn't about the time per se, but just while you're here, I think that this is helpful to see that, you know, the reach of photo posts tend to do much better than just statuses, which is just text only, and that the links get the least average reach and the least engagement. So you can see that most people are reacting, engaging with the photos. So that's good to keep in mind. I do encourage people to do a mix. You know, sometimes it's just good to mix things up just so it feels a little different. But anyway, and then you can also see if you have any pages that you watch, you can see some information from them too. So if you have any, you know, other pages that you think do really well, that, you know, are good to offer you insights, then you can always watch them and look at that there. But moving on to to the actual helping you decide what time is a good time to post. So you can use the schedule that I showed you earlier. Start with that, and then go to this section and look and see which ones perform the best. Now, personally, I think it's the content and the time kind of combined together that's really going to help you. So some posts just connect better than others. Not everything connects, and that's just how it is. Sometimes it could just be the timing. Like if you posted it again at a different time of day in a different week, it might perform better. you know. And that's definitely something I've seen with pages I used to work for, where they did a lot more of the strategy where they liked to post several times a day on Twitter specifically. You know, one post, the first time it went, maybe it was just the off time and it didn't perform well. And like the next time we'd schedule it, it would go gangbusters. So, you know, some of it it's luck, some of it it's science. A lot of times it's a little bit of both. Anyway, though, so you can look down here and you can see that this post did really great. And it went out at 8:51 on the 10th. So you would want to look up what day of the week that was. And then maybe for the next couple weeks, try to schedule posts maybe of similar nature at the same time and see how they perform. And then you'll be able to figure out if it was just this post that did really well at that time, or if maybe that's a really good time for your audience. So and again, you can come down here and here's another one at 6:38 a.m. So, you know, just play it around and see what times look good and try to do more on that time frame. Because it is. It's just I wish I could just say that these are the times to post and it's going to be great and wonderful and that's all there is to it. But unfortunately, there's just a lot of variability. Even just talking to reflexologists, you know, you guys still target very different audiences. And there's just not one perfect solution. So anyway, I don't want to discourage you, but I just don't want you to worry too much about it either. So posting consistently, but not too much, I think is as much, if anything. And then again, do pay some attention. Again, you know, if you're posting all of your posts on Sundays and you're not getting any response, well, okay, maybe that's why. Like, you know, it's good to pay attention and try some variety and try some different things and mix up the types of content you're doing and things like that too. So, but, you know, I guess it depends on how structured you like to be. So if you want structure, here's a guideline. You can start with it. You can look at the data. You can make some adjustments. You can take tests. You can just stick with this, or you can just post when it works for you. So try this out, see what you think, and I'd love to hear how it goes for you guys. If you find any magic times, let's share it, and maybe it'll help the others too. So personally, I have tested and tested and tested, and I don't feel like that there's ever been one single magic time, but maybe you guys can find it. So let's get some more feet on your table and keep posting on social media for more visibility.